Try to catch me howling at the moon.
This is the DJI RS3 Pro, and it's finally coming in at the perfect time because I had a shoot this weekend, and this is the perfect tool for following someone on a bike. During this project, I found that there are two specific features on this gimbal that I just love. And no, they're not the craziest upgrades, but they did make my life a lot easier. But are they enough to justify this new gimbal? Let's check it out. I ended up going with the RS3 Pro. It's not the combo, which essentially means I just get the gimbal. It does come with the carrying case, the gimbal, a few cables, screws, the tripod extension, and then the briefcase handle. This is about a 3.3 pound gimbal that can handle a payload of about 10 pounds, which should be more than enough for my FX3 with my 24-105 or my 16-35 lens, possibly a monitor, a mic, and in some scenarios a matte box. With everything on it, it should come in around 5 pounds, but I probably won't have all of these on at the same time. I do like to go as minimal as possible. If I can get away without using a mic or a monitor, I will. I don't typically have a matte box either, but after this weekend and seeing some of the shots, I figured it's time to have one for certain shots or conditions where the matte box would help with the lens flare. Some of the other cool new updates and upgrades on this new generation gimbal include the 1.8-inch OLED screen, which so far has been great. I've had no issues with it, and I do appreciate the increase in size, especially when I need to make quick changes. The bigger screen helps me do that quicker and more accurately. On this shoot, about 90% of the shots that were taken on the RS3 were on my gimbal, so I'm glad that I didn't have any issues making any changes, especially because I was making some changes on the one wheel. Probably not a good idea, but I was. And on top of the larger screen, this new gimbal also has physical switches on the side to go between the pan, tilt, and FPV mode. And I wasn't too used to using these, so I stayed away from them on this shoot, but I'm sure as soon as I got used to them and I know where everything's at, they'll be very handy. Alright, let's talk about the two upgrades that I have loved. The first one is the one that everyone loves and everyone's talking about, and for good reason. This new gimbal, once it's balanced, can be turned off and it will automatically fold itself with the camera on it, which means you no longer have to shut down the whole operation once you're done using the gimbal, or if you want to move locations, you don't have to tear it down. You can just hold the power button, the gimbal will fold itself, and it's pretty compact so you can move it pretty easily. But even crazier, if you just power it back on, it rebalances, goes back to where it was, which should save so much time between shots and in setting up. And now this isn't as crazy as if, let's say, the gimbal were to just calibrate and balance itself right out of the box, but it's getting pretty close to that. And although balancing a gimbal doesn't take too much time or isn't that difficult to do, if DJI can put a gimbal that always just balances itself, again, straight out of the camera, well, they'd probably take my money. Again. Let me know down below in the comments if I'm the only one that's super lazy and would want this feature on a gimbal. Okay, and the last feature, maybe my favorite, the Bluetooth. Yeah, sorry, that was a little disappointing, but with this Bluetooth connection, this means I no longer have that annoying little cable that goes into the camera just to be able to trigger the record button. And maybe it's not the biggest deal to some, but for me, that cable always caused issues. I would forget it, which was totally on me, or it wouldn't connect right. Sometimes it just would lose connection. Maybe I just had a faulty cable, but I always had issues with it. So now you just set up the Bluetooth connection in the gimbal settings, in your camera settings, it stays paired. All you really need to do is turn the gimbal on and off, and it pairs automatically. And honestly, it's great. I've loved this feature. As far as stabilization, I was very happy with the results for this project. If I was stationary, moving the gimbal up and down or side to side, the footage was very smooth. and when I was moving to capture the shots with the gimbal, I could feel the road and it was very bumpy. I was also on my one wheel for extra stability, but I could feel all the bumps on the path. But even with those bumps, the gimbal stabilized very well. I shot most of this footage at 60 frames per second so I could slow it down to make it look even a little bit more stable. So here's that footage slowed down. I haven't added any other stabilization in post, and I don't think it needs it. As far as stabilization, these gimbals have been really good for a while, so I wasn't expected to be wowed or disappointed by the stabilization. It's more about the features that are added to enhance the user experience at this point, at least to me. So if you're debating on if you need this new gimbal, the RS3 or the RS3 Pro, of course it depends on what you're currently working with. If you're mainly doing handheld footage and want some more stability, then yeah, this could be a good investment. But if you have the RS2 or the R2 and have no issues with them, then maybe the money would be better spent on something else like lights or a new lens, or maybe just saved. Let me know down below in the comments if you pick one of these up or you're still debating on it. And if you like the video, how about this? Hit the like button to help out the channel. Maybe consider subscribing if you want to see more videos where I'll be using this gimbal. I appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.